Button is set here, but I don't want to set the alarm off. They're an hour off.
I didn't know that was there was a panic alarm on it. That's it.
There's got to be a way of doing it, I'm sure.
Ready?
Yep, ready to go.
Okay. The January 2025 meeting of the Bowling Green City Zoning Board of Appeals is called to order. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Jeff Crawford.
Here,
Tim Emmerich.
present.
Judy Ennis. Absent. Hobie Johnson.
Yes.
Rod Noble.
Present.
David Flager.
Here.
Jay Sockman. Here.
Okay. First order of business tonight, since we do have a quorum, is the approval of the minutes from the December 2024 meeting as circulated. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Johnson, seconded by Mr. Flieger. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Minutes are approved. We have three cases this evening. All are variance requests. You have made an application for a zoning permit that does not meet the requirements of the city zoning code. And as you're aware, the Zoning Board of Appeals has the authority to grant a variance from the strict application of those requirements, provided that you may do certain things. You're aware that there are 7 criteria in the zoning code that we need to consider in order to determine that the strict enforcement of the code would cause you a practical difficulty as the property owner. As we go through the evening, I'd like for you to be sure that you keep that in mind, that we need to understand how the criteria that are in the zoning code, those 7 criteria, would cause you that practical difficulty. The board will also be considering those criteria as we make our decisions. What we ask that you do is provide credible evidence when you testify, not so much opinions or feelings, but about facts as they pertain to your particular case, and then also, as I mentioned, relating back to the zoning code. Appeals of decisions by the board can be made to the Wood County Court of Common Pleas. The way this will work is that I will read the variance request that is on the agenda. We will then ask the applicant to come to the podium. We ask that you please speak clearly into the microphone and as I mentioned, state your case with credible evidence that shows us that the strict application of the zoning code would cause you practical difficulties for you as the property owner. After that, the board members may ask you questions. Anyone else who is here who would like to offer testimony, again in the form of credible evidence, either in support or opposed to your request, will be asked to come to the podium and make their remarks. And we may ask questions of those folks. And once that's all wrapped up, then the public comment portion of the hearing will be concluded, and the board members will openly discuss the request. Could possibly be more questions for you at that time, and then we will issue a decision, and you'll know what that is this evening before you leave. Please feel at ease. We're a generally friendly bunch. We're volunteers here, and we're just trying to serve the citizens of Bowling Green. And we want to help you with your project and do what you want to do, but we have got to take into consideration those other factors and the neighbors as well. So this is a quasi-judicial proceeding. As such, we will ask you before you testify to stand and swear an oath to tell the truth. We also have a court reporter present who will be taking a record of the proceedings, and we'll go from there, okay? If you have any questions or concerns as we go along, please don't hesitate to ask. If you have not, so far there's a sign-in sheet by the door. Please sign that before you leave. And at this time, I would ask anyone who plans to testify or thinks that they may testify in any of the 3 cases before us tonight to please stand. Anybody plan to testify? Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you will give in the matters before us this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, very well, thank you. All right, first case this evening is Orrin Keller, 905 Lambert Drive, has requested variances to allow the following construction. A 10-foot 6-inch by 14-foot addition, which is a sunroom, which would encroach 15 feet into the required 30-foot rear yard setback to the south. Second, a 4-foot by 22-foot extension of the existing covered patio, which would encroach 10 feet into the required 30-foot rear yard setback to the south and 5 feet into the required 10-foot side yard setback to the west. Third, a 4-foot by 6-foot front porch canopy, which would encroach 1 foot into the required 25-foot front yard setback to the north. And finally, a 1-foot extension of the gable roof, which would encroach 2 feet into the required 25-foot front yard setback to the north. Heather, would you please give us the rundown on our first case?
Yes, thank you. Under the zoning code, section 150.23, the property is zoned R1, low-density residential. And here's where we get the R1 zone standard. So the minimum front yard setback is 25 feet. The side yard setback is 10 feet minimum. And then the rear yard is 30-foot minimum. Here's an aerial view of the property. Using pictometry, here is a view of the current rear yard, and the house already, you might have already noted, was already, built prior to zoning and already was into that 30-foot required minimum setback, along with that side yard to the west. Here's another view of the property, the side of the house. Here's the front of the house and the other side of the house. Here's a picture of the front of the house. And here's looking from the side of the house towards the front there, so you can kind of get an idea of what that current porch looks like. And then that front roof that they would like to make a gable roof that would encroach slightly into the right-of-way. And then again, that covered porch that would encroach slightly into that minimum 25-foot setback. Here's a view looking down the side of the house. And then here's looking at that existing patio that has a roof extension that they would like to extend further. And then here's another view of the rear yard. I assume those stakes are showing approximately where they'd like to extend that addition. And then here's another view of the other side of the house, just to give you an idea of what that looks like. It's a little bit set back a bit. And then another view of the rear yard from that other side of the house. And then here's a sketch that was part of your packet. We just tried to highlight those different variances so you could see the improvements that he does wish to make on that plan. We did get one email from an adjoining property owner, and I will read that into the record. It's from Jerry Trudeau, and it was received Monday, December 30th, 2024 at 8:34 p.m. to the Planning Department email, subject zoning variance request. To the Zoning Board of Appeals, Orrin Keller has requested a zoning variance at 905 Lambert Drive, Bowling Green, Ohio. As residents of the adjacent property at 890 West Wooster Street, my wife and I would like to voice our opposition to the variance. We have had no contact with Mr. Keller, so we don't know what the plans are for the property on Lambert Drive. We don't know if it is going to be flipped or turned into another rental. What we do know is that if the variance is allowed, the property value will be increased at the expense of our property value and privacy. We have had a neighbor get a variance to build a garage and driveway built next to our property unopposed by us, only to have them complain that our trees are dropping debris on their driveway and garage. So we are unwilling to let others have variances that affects us and our property unopposed. It would seem that if someone is going to purchase a property with the intention of adding on, they should purchase a property that has space for the addition without needing a variance, not ask for a variance at the expense of their neighbor's property value and privacy. Gerald and Beth Trudeau, 890 West Wooster Street, Bowling Green, Ohio, 43402. And I give you copies at your seat. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice was placed at the site. The other notices required by the administrative code were posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed, first class mail, to the tax mailing address of the owner and adjoining property owners. Therefore, all the procedure requirements for the hearing have been met.
Thank you. Mr. Keller?
Yep.
You would please state your name and your address for us?
Yeah, my name's Orrin Keller. Excuse me, 905 Lambert. We're not currently living in the structure.
Can you confirm for me that you previously stated your oath to tell the truth tonight?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Tell us about the project and remember the practical difficulty issue and those 7 criteria that you're aware of from your application for the variance.
Okay. We purchased this house as a place to age in place. And one of the things in our current house that we really enjoy is the porch. And we want to add one to this house. Sunroom porch. I'm a little stunned by the neighbor's objection. I'll tell you, I'm a little taken aback because if that's the yellow house that's directly behind us, they're at least 200 feet away. I will provide you with a picture, which you didn't see, but this is a picture. It's the one that says looking south from the deck of the house.
Jay, would you give that to Heather when you're finished for the file, please?
They also have a line of pine trees across it, so I don't see how this would affect them. We're only going 10 feet back. And in today's real estate market, to tell me to go buy a house that has everything that I want, that's just not possible in this time. Okay, we've been looking for a house for years in Bowling Green to move out of a 2-story into a 1-story ranch, and they just aren't available. And if they are in need a lot of work like this one was, but they're substantially more expensive. So we bought this house with the hope that you guys would allow us to build. The house was originally built before zoning, and it already fails most of the setbacks required. We're only going back another 10 feet. And 2 feet into the front yard setback, we can argue about that. We can leave the porch off if you so decide. But we wanted to, so when somebody comes to the front door, they're undercover. It also adds to the appearance of the house. And no, we're not flipping, and no, we're not renting. We're going to live in it. And we would like to have the porch that we desire. And under the current zoning, we can't do it without your permission.
Anything more you can add with regard to that practical difficulty issue as you read through those 7 criteria that we need to work within?
I'm sorry, I don't know the 7 criteria.
Okay.
I just know that we failed the zoning right out of the gate when we bought the house.
Okay. That was in the application for the variance. That
Correct. So all we're doing is extending 10 feet more out into the rear yard setback. And I don't know, you could tell me how far we're into the setback now?
Heather, I think he was asking you.
She's looking.
Oh, I'm
Yep,
sorry.
I was looking, sorry, I didn't know I had the right sketch here.
About 4'6".
Probably about 7 feet or so.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
So this house was built prior to the current zoning code. Do you know when it was built originally? Was it built-
1950s,
Okay, so it was built before the previous zoning code as well.
right? We're completely remodeling it, which is immaterial for this, other than the additions we would like to make.
Anything else?
And you purchased this when, if you don't mind me asking,
October,
of this year?
yes. And we closed in November, so. Anything else? Anybody have any questions? If you look at the pictures, isn't going to stick out that much more. And if you look at the peripherals, the next door neighbor has no objection. His garage is within a foot of the property line on the on his east side, my west side. And I will also bring that the zoning board has also approved other homes within the neighborhood, specifically Marie Rogers at the end, where she put on a sun porch almost identical to this.
Okay.
I have a stack of previously approved zoning variances for the neighborhood here, if you care to see them.
For, we don't operate on precedent, so.
I
each
understand.
case is individual. Okay. Any questions from the board?
May I ask for those pictures again that you had initially? I'm looking at the property from above to see the neighbor's garage, and if you have that.
I think the neighbor's garage she's complaining about is that gray one,
That's the picture I needed. Thank you.
right? And I don't know if you can see it, but there's something off the back of the house, looks like orange or something. That's where the sunroom's gonna go, and it's gonna stick out 10 feet. And the covered porch is gonna go another 4, which is the top roof that last. It's gonna stick out another 4 feet.
Mr. Keller, from time to time, when we have multiple setback issues, we'll vote on those separately. Would you be amenable to that? I guess where I'm going is if we approve the front porch, for instance, and not the other two, or do you want it all or none, or?
Oh, well, let's go to individually. I mean, I'm hoping that you're gonna agree to all 3.
Okay, I'm just asking the question. I don't know. if
No,
that'll be
you
the
can do
board's
all 3. I
pleasure.
mean, well, I'll probably do whatever you approve.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Anyone else? Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak in this matter?
I know the current neighbor has absolutely no objections because I've already talked to him. My immediate neighbor to the west.
No one else wishes to be heard? Okay, we'll close the public comment period then. You can have a seat.
Thank you very much. By the way, I appreciate your time.
Any comments, discussion?
I think it'd be an improvement to the neighborhood, to tell you the truth, and I don't really see a problem going that far back with the other houses, having stuff further back than that also. As for the front porch, I think that would make a lot of sense on the house myself.
I agree 100%, and I think it'd be increasing the value of not only his property, but I don't see how increasing the value of his would drop the value of a neighbor's 200 feet away. So I would be totally in favor of all, the entire request.
I think my only reservation would be that the home was purchased with the new code in place and then setting a precedent that will allow people to basically not pay attention to that. Not that I'm against what he's trying to do, but if you've got the zoning code and people purchase a home knowing that they're going to have something changed within that code, that it's a little troublesome for me.
Mr. Emmerich?
Yeah, I don't see too much problems. 3 of these requests are really pretty modest in nature. The only one that seems a little bit extra would be the sunroom, but the profile of the backyard is pretty slim, and I really don't see any objections.
Mr. Johnson, you have anything?
Only that the neighbor to his south would, I think, be concerned only because he wasn't aware really of what was going on and was afraid it might be converted to rental. And we have that information that that's not the case. So
Good point. On the face of it, I just saw that, I felt that the setbacks were substantial in nature. That's one of our 7 criteria. Normally, in my view, when a neighbor objects, that weighs on my decision. As you point out, though, I can't swear that it's 200 feet. I was out there and looked, and I can tell that it's quite a distance. Your lot is shallow, his lot's quite deep, and the distance is considerable in any event. So that outweighs my concerns for the fact that the request is substantial. So, anyone else? Anyone care to make a motion for approval?
I move for approval of the request as submitted.
Okay, Mr. Crawford made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Sockman, the motion on the floor is to approve Mr. Keller's variance request as submitted. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the secretary please call the roll?
Hobie Johnson,
Yes.
Rod Noble,
Yes.
David Flager,
Yes.
Jay Sockman, yes. Jeff Crawford,
Yes.
Tim Emmerich.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Keller, your variance request has been approved. If you would,
Took all three at the same time.
yes. If you would, please make sure you see the planning department, get your final permit work, and best to you. Okay, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, second case, Aaron Downs by Next Fence on behalf of Michelle, I'm going to say that's Rail, I'm not sure about the pronunciation. Okay, good. 985 West Wooster Street has requested a variance to allow the construction of a 6-foot tall fence, which has already been constructed, which would extend past the front-facing elevation of the principal structure on the adjacent lot to the east. Heather, please.
Under section 150.79 of the zoning code, fences, the following are applicable to all fences erected on all property except as otherwise set forth herein. Under A, except when fences are required by the zoning code for screening, a fence shall not exceed heights indicated in Table 5. Table 25, fence regulations. In this case, it is a pretty large corner lot. It's almost unique in the sense that it has frontage along 3 different streets. So in this case, what applies is where you'll see the fence location side yard, and we have highlighted, typically you're allowed a 6-foot maximum, but in this case, fences of more than 4 feet in height in the side yard may not be extended closer to the street right of way than the front-facing elevation of any principal structure on the lot or an adjacent lot. In this case, it does go beyond the adjacent lot, that principal structure. I did this aerial map for your packets to try to help visualize, again, the frontage along Wooster, Western, and Wilson Drive, the actual parcel. And then I drew that yellow dash line to sort of represent that front elevation of that adjacent house. And then in red is where the fence is located, the 6-foot tall. So it's really just that portion that would just be south of that yellow dash line that would require the variance approval. The rest of that fence is in compliance. Here's a further out aerial view of the property showing the parcel. Using pictometry, here's facing north to see the back of the house. Here is facing that Western Drive. And then here's the actual front that the house faces on West Wooster. And then here's looking at the side of the property. Here's a picture of the front of the house. A little bit closer in view of the front. And then going around the house there, you'll see that garage in the back. And then looking at a closer view of the garage and then that 6-foot tall fence. And then here's looking along Wilson, where you'll see the fence goes past that house to the side of the property. And then here's looking between the neighboring house and then the 6-foot fence. And then here's looking from the neighboring house towards the fence that would be to the west, just to give you an idea. It's a bit further away, then it's kind of hard to tell the scale unless you're standing there. Here's a sketch that was part of your packets. And then there was another sketch that we highlighted again where the fence goes beyond the adjacent house. And then I gave you a history of this project because as you've noticed, the fence is already up. So the letter in your packet was dated December 23rd, 2024 from Jason Westgate, our zoning code enforcement officer, regarding the variance request for 985 West Wooster Street. Below is background information regarding this request. Just to give you an idea of the history, October 11th of 2024, the contractor applied for a fence permit. October 21st, 2024, Jamie Komanek, the administrative assistant from the planning department, had a phone conversation with the applicant, the contractor. That same day, she emailed the applicant asking for a new sketch with more information. Then the contractor emailed a new sketch to her. That's Exhibit A in your packet on the same day, October 21st. Then she emailed applicant again the same day, saying she keeps getting different measurements than what was provided, and that's on Exhibit B. Then on the same day, she emailed the applicant again, stating it looks like they would be in front of the neighboring house at 926 Wilson Drive. So the applicant sent an email this, again, same day, we're still on October 21st, saying he made a mistake, the fence is on the corner of the garage, and that he would resend the revised sketch. On October 30th, 2024, Ms. Kamenek had still not received the updated sketch, so she called the applicant to request the new sketch again. She also sent an email asking the applicant if he ever got the new sketch done and told him that the permit is on hold. On the same day, the applicant emailed Ms. Kamenek back and said that he thought that he had sent it, but he will resend it. He emailed her the updated sketch. That's Exhibit B, or excuse me, C in your packet. On the same day, Ms. Kamenek asked the applicant via an email, the fence is going to be 4 feet or 6 feet tall. She explained that a 6-foot tall fence could not be placed in the front yard setback and that the fence appears to be in front of the house at 926 Wilson. On October 30th, same day, Ms. Kamenek asked if I could go out and see the contract, if the contractor had put up the fence. She said she has had several communications with the applicant to try to get the necessary information. Then the next day, Jason went out and observed the new fence had been completely erected at this location. On November 8th, Jason confirmed with Ms. Kamenek that she had still not heard back from the applicant, so I asked Heather Saylor, planning director, about issuing a civil citation to the owner. She asked me to write the history of the circumstances to discuss it with the city attorney. On November 25th, 2024, the city attorney recommended a certified letter of violation be sent to the owners. On November 26th, the certified letter of violation was sent to the property owners. See attached Exhibit D. And on December 2nd, 2024, Michelle Rail, the property owner, called the planning department office upset after receiving the letter of violation. She said she was assured by the contractor the permit had been approved. On December 11th of 2024, the contractor came into the office to submit the application for variance request on behalf of the property owners. We did not receive any phone calls or written correspondence after sending the required notifications. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice was placed at the site. The other notices required by the administrative code were posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed, first-class mail, to the tax mailing address of the owner and adjoining property owners. Therefore, all the procedure requirements for the hearing have been met.
Thank you. Mr. Downs or Ms. Rail, or either of you here, like to come forward? Please state your name and your address for us.
Actually, I'm Aaron Valentine. I'm representing Aaron Downs. He's a worker. I'm the owner of the company.
Okay.
We did
Do you
the work.
confirm for me that you swore your oath to tell the truth
I did.
previously?
I did.
Hi, I'm Michelle Rail. I'm the owner at 985 West Worcester Street, and I swear to tell the truth.
Okay, very good. Who'd like to go first? Please tell us what's
Yeah, I
going
will.
on, and
I'd first like
remember-
to-
Excuse me, just one at a time. Remember that we need to talk about the practical difficulty, and especially as it relates to the 7 criteria in the zoning code. Okay, go ahead.
First off, I'd like to apologize for kind of jumping the gun on the fence. I was just trying to give customer good service and get it in before the winter set in and get the job done. I did not think this was the first issue that I've ever had with fence not meeting zoning codes and restrictions. So I want to apologize for jumping the gun, not waiting for everything was sorted out before we went into the install. I was just trying to give the customer good service. The main issue that I have, I think Michelle has as well, is that if you look at their house on their lot and you have West Worcester and you have Western and you have Wilson, and you look at what is considered, front yard, side yard, and backyard, I had figured that basically from her garage in the back of her house that would be all considered backyard when you have to basically go off the house beside them to the east, 926, and then look at that as front yard and not backyard. So I had assumed that from the garage coming around to the back corner of her house, that would be all considered backyard, and side yard would be along Western, would be side yard, front yard would be West Worcester. So the challenges for them is that the way the house orients and having front yard and side yard, if we're to put a privacy fence in the backyard from the garage, including the back of the house, that leaves very little room for backyard privacy. And so we want to free up more space for them to have 6-foot privacy fence in what I consider the backyard, which you guys would consider the front yard. And so that's the reason we want to have it approved for the 6-foot.
Mr. Downs, have you done much work in the city?
Actually, I'm Aaron I'm
I beg your
Valentine. Yeah, he has a young child, so I told him I would take care of.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Aaron Valentine.
Mr. Valentine. Has Next Fence done much work in the city of Bowling Green with fences?
I think about maybe like I'm thinking half a dozen jobs maybe, and never had an issue.
So Mr. Downs is well aware of the zoning requirements in the city.
Yeah, him and I both are. It's myself and 2 other installers. That's the size of the company.
Have any comments?
I do. I really appreciate the work and the customer service that he provided. Unfortunately, the timing of all of this, I tend to be pretty anal. I told him multiple times that I would absolutely not allow the fence to be installed. I didn't want it installed. I didn't want anything touched until we had a permit. It was just unfortunate timing that my mother had passed away. I was dealing with her, getting ready for her celebration of life in another city. I asked him if he had the permit. He thought he did. There was some communication on that part, whatever. That part I don't know for sure. I was under the impression that we had that. And November 9th, I believe, that Saturday, 8th, whatever that was, that is the day of my mom's celebration of life. I was incredibly, and that's not an excuse, it's what it is. So what he mentions about the backyard, for us, it's our backyard, right? We just happen to be on a peninsula. So to cut off a section of that backyard space where we already have a very clear, if you look at the pictures, there's a very clear kind of line that we have trees, bushes, things like that planted that we were trying to create before we chose to put up a fence and had the ability to put a fence up. We were trying to create a little privacy, trying to create, because there's literally our backyard, we're a peninsula on 3 streets. We have, every neighbor can look into our backyard. And so we just wanted a tiny bit of privacy. There's a renter in that house directly next to us on Wilson. And we're just trying to create a family environment within our own backyard. So to cut off between the trees, we have an apple tree that's inside the fence. It would really be quite a detriment to our backyard and our livable space, which does appear to be one of the options here that we need to consider. I don't know whether you all consider this substantial. To me, 2-foot difference makes a huge difference to us and our privacy and what we live with daily. I would hope that would be taken into consideration, the fact that we really do have this kind of strange property where every other property on that street is a single lot and we're a double lot. So does that help at all with, sorry.
Very sorry for your loss.
Forgive me.
first of all.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's been a rough fall, so.
Yeah. One other thing I like to add too is if it's denied, I'm going to take care of whatever needs to be done at our cost, whether it's to move this down to 4 foot or put another line of 6 foot in between so that they can have some 6 foot area and then some 4 foot area. We're going to take care of that. Yeah.
And I do appreciate he has stepped up as a business owner and has taken care of, immediately when I brought this to his attention. It is partially my fault. I understand that I did not follow up, and I do apologize because that was never my intention whatsoever. But miscommunications happened. And
Okay.
do you have any
Anyone
questions?
else care to speak to this matter? Okay. Well, we'll end the public comment portion of this case. Any board members have questions for either Mr. Valentine or Ms. Rail? No?
I don't.
Any final comments?
My only comment is, one, I think it would look a lot worse if you lopped off 2 feet. I don't really have any problem with the request, but it seems like blatant disregard for the permit process and the city's, apologies are okay, but this was this was known defiance, in my opinion. I feel for Ms. Rule, and I'm gonna support the request when it gets to that point. But I do feel like I need to say that. It's blatant disregard.
Could I say something? I didn't blatantly.
Would you please come up to
Touch
the
the podium.
microphone?
Yeah, no, I didn't blatantly disregard the codes and the heights restrictions and all that stuff. I simply thought that that what was considered front yard and backyard, that's considered front yard where we put the 6-foot fence, and I thought that was considered backyard. So I don't want you to think that I blatantly disregard and just wanted to ram through, collect a check, all that stuff. I did not do that. I figured that was going to be classified as backyard, and that was, so I don't want you to think that I did just say, the heck with the laws and the rules and zoning. I don't want you to think that.
I hear what you're saying. I'm not gonna beat a
Yeah.
dead horse, but the timing of the correspondence paints a different picture than that.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Reardon.
by his testimony earlier, he indicated that Western Avenue was a side yard, which would then mean that he knew that that area along where the fence line is the backyard. So he knew, in my opinion.
Mr. Sockman, anything?
Other than, I think everyone on this board knows my feelings on pre-construction without a permit. I don't like it.
Mr. Emmerich?
These corner lots are always sort of problematic, and this one's kind of a double corner lot, a double whammy. But I don't have any objections. Obviously, the timing and the construction, this isn't how it's supposed to go. But I still am in favor of it.
Mr. Flieger?
I also agree that they need to have the fence over there for the privacy for the family. But again, we've seen this too many times where they violate the process and then come in and say, oh, we're sorry about it, even though maybe it wasn't intentional. However, this is a continued process that this board does see over and over.
I agree. That disturbs me that there was a 2-month period start to finish from when the permit application was first requested until it was finally filed. And Mr. Valentine's acknowledged that the company has done work in the city and is aware that there is a zoning code. And while this is a strange case with 3 front yards, if the procedure would have been followed and the permit applied for in a timely manner prior to construction, it wouldn't have been as much of an issue. I do, however, on our criteria, have a problem with the fact that, in my view, it is a substantial variance request. And I feel also that it does negatively affect the character of the neighborhood. So those things are weighing on my decision. Anything else?
Well, to go back to Winter Garden Road and Burgoyne, I think it is. I probably should have said no on that one too. So, because I don't think it looks good in the neighborhood after it's constructed. This one, I don't like how it sits in front of the house on Wilson Drive. If I lived on Wilson, it's just my opinion.
Any other final thoughts? Anyone care to make a motion for the disposition of this case?
I motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Emmerich moved that the variance request be approved as submitted, seconded by Mr. Flieger. Any further discussion? Will the secretary please call the roll?
Start with Rod Noble,
No.
David Flager,
Yes.
Jay Sockman, no. Jeff Crawford,
Yes.
Tim Emmerich,
Yes.
Hobie Johnson,
No,
I believe that's a
3 to
3-3 tie, and unfortunately, I'm afraid that means your request has not been approved. And I remind you that if you care to, you may appeal to the Wood County Court of Common Pleas. Okay. Third request, Carl and Christy Lang, 820 Pine Valley Drive, have requested a variance to allow the construction of a 20 foot by 5¼ inch by 16 foot 1¼ inch addition, which is a covered patio, which would encroach 2 feet 5 inches into the required 30-foot rear yard setback to the west. And I understand, Mr. Johnson, you need to recuse yourself from this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Heather?
Okay, thank you. Under section 150.23, the property is zoned R1, low-density residential zone. Under this table, R1 zone standards, you'll see the minimum rear yard setback is 30 feet. Here's an aerial view of the property. Using pictometry, you can see the front of the house. This is the rear of the house, and then the side and the front. Here's a picture of the front of the house. And this is another angle of the front of the house looking more towards the driveway and garage. And then here's looking towards the side as we walk towards the rear yard. Here is a rear yard. You can see there's a patio there now. This was a sketch that was part of your packet showing the proposed roof extension. And then there is also a proposed patio, but that doesn't need a variance. It's just that actual roof addition going into that 30-foot rear yard setback. We did receive one email from a neighbor. It's from Amir Gherkin, and it was received Sunday, January 5th, 2025 at 8:26 a.m. to the Planning Department general email regarding 820 Pine Valley Drive. And it reads, Dear Bowling Green Planning Department, I am writing in regard to the variance request from Carl and Christine Lang residing at 820 Pine Valley Drive. I am the owner of the property at 813 Pine Valley Drive, Bowling Green, Ohio, 43402, which I believe makes me an adjoining property owner to the Lang residents. I have reviewed the details of their request to construct a 20-foot, 5¼ inch by 16-foot, 1¼ inch addition covered patio, which would encroach 2 feet 5 inches into the required 30-foot rear yard setback to the west. I hereby express my formal approval of their request. I do not believe the proposed construction will negatively impact my property or the neighborhood. Thank you for considering my input on this matter. Sincerely, Amir Gherkin, 813 Pine Valley Drive, Bowling Green, Ohio, 43402. An advertisement was placed in the newspaper of general circulation as required. A site notice was placed at the site. The other notices required by the administrative code are posted in the proper time and location. A letter was mailed, first class mail to the tax mailing address of the owner and adjoining property owners. Therefore, all the procedure requirements for the hearing have been met.
Thank you. The Langs.
Good evening.
Good evening. Please state your name and address.
Carl Lang, 820 Pine Valley Drive.
Mr. Lang, do you confirm that you previously swore your oath to tell the truth?
I did.
Thank you. Tell us what's going on.
My wife and I moved into Bowling Green 2.5 years ago, and the first thing I'd like to say is we came from Michigan, and what a wonderful community you have here in Bowling Green. But we were planning on building a patio addition, so we contracted with Kraus Design in Ottawa. And we came up with the original plan of 18 by 20, or 18 by 16 for the patio addition. Then we decided on a grill, and the grill in the product specifications recommended 18 inches on each side of the grill. So that required us to go back to the drawing board and push it out to 2 feet, which would run 16 feet in front. So that's the variance that we're asking for, is that 2 feet 5¼ inches along the front, 16 feet 1 inch.
So if I hear you correctly, your practical difficulty in our lingo is the fact that the specifications for your grill require.
Right. Based on the BTUs, it's a 36-inch grill. We're required to have 18 inches on each side, so that required the redesign to push the project out 2 feet 5 inches.
All right. Anyone else care to speak on this matter? Any questions from the board?
I do have a question. So at 16-foot easement, utility easement, he's not getting in the way of that?
Correct. By
Okay.
what was submitted, correct.
So, yeah, that's, yeah. I don't have a problem with it myself. I mean, 2 foot's not bad. I think it would look nice on the back of the house.
Anyone else? I don't have any
And
problem.
I'd just like to add also that we followed the contour of the house design with the hip roof to make sure that it's very appealing when you're looking towards the east from the golf course.
The golfers would approve.
Anybody else?
This Fire Magic Grill seems a pretty heavy duty grill.
It's a very expensive grill, but it is. It's a very nice grill. It's a built-in, and so yeah, it's
When is steak night?
that'll be on Wednesdays, guys.
Anyone else? Anyone care to make a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Flieger, second by Mr. Crawford to approve the variance request as submitted. Any discussion? Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Jeff Crawford,
Yes.
Tim Emmerich,
Yes.
Rod Noble,
Yes.
David Flager,
Yes.
Jay Sockman, yes.
Your variance has been approved. Please
Thank
see
you.
the planning department to get your final permitting, and good luck.
Okay, will do. I would like to add one comment. Coming from Michigan, I'm sure you've heard about a road issue up there. I have to give tremendous kudos to the city of Bowling Green. The way that their maintenance team takes care of all the roads, they do the storm drains. I was a facility director, so I'm aware of these things, and I do see the quality of the work that's done on behalf of this city, and I'd just like to thank you for that.
The mayor's here, and he's got a smile on his face. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our business as far as the variances go. Anyone care to make any comments for lobby visitation? Anything else from the board members? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
Mr. Flieger, Mr. Emmerich, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.